Hello and welcome to BBC News on BBC Radio. My name is Vac Mickelson and I am joined by my co-host Christoph Sebastian.
Good evening.
This is our third take. The first take we just kind of tripped over ourselves. The second take went off great. I went back to retrieve the recording on my computer and it didn't record a single thing I said.
Oh,
So
we are sitting on top of a huge pile of garbage. It's fine.
yeah,
It's fine.
yeah, we're professionals here, people.
Doing
Anyways, and
we're very
unfortunately we had
well.
a guest there. We had William from the freshman MP for Parliament, William Cavendish Beauclerk, but he was not available to re-record. So hey, I'm sorry, William, but yeah,
We'll get you back in the hot seat next time.
at some point, we'll see what
There.
happens next week. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and we're gonna go back in time a little bit. Maybe a little over a week to when the Regional Security Act was sunk by the prorogation of the last Parliament, and it just died in the Lords and hasn't come up again. So,
Yeah.
Christoph, as an MP, I believe, were you an MP at the time? I think you.
No. I was not.
Do you see the current Parliament bringing that back forward? That kind of seems like it was a
Not
priority
really.
of the Lucas Stewart premiership, and Aaron couldn't be bothered to bring it back up.
Yeah, not really, because yeah, as the previous prime minister has put it in his opening remarks at that debate, there was two main points of that Regional Security Act. One of that is to take out any mentions of the UKF and therefore erasing it from the legal framework. And that question has been decided more or less by now. And back then, it received a lot of backlash. Bunch of people stood out against that motion. And yeah, now we have to see what the UKF's new uh, structure is going to bring. Any
Yeah,
fresh ideas?
the new Chief of General Staff has been doing great work. I believe the UKF has already seen some new activity. Looks to be
Yeah,
a
yeah
looks to be a
we have
promising term from John Spencer Talleyrand.
we have a lot of great stuff. If anyone has ever thought of joining the UKF, join now.
John, no.
Shameless plug here.
Yeah.
So that was
Speaking
one of the
speaking of
main questions.
speaking
Yep.
of Lucas Stewart, though, the election happened a week ago yesterday.
Oh, what we can back to that in a second. I just wanted to address the other point
Yeah.
because that was also an important point in the Regional Security Act bill, which was the question regarding our stance in the frontier stronghold question.
Oh, I forgot about that. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So some were arguing that it's not really beneficial to over-regulate this process. Some were saying it should be put to a region-wide referendum, which was in the bill. So yeah, that might be an interesting aspect to bring back in this term if someone takes up the mantle. But yeah, mostly it was
There does not seem to be the
lost in
political will
time.
at this time, though.
I will see how the term
Especially with
progresses.
the Strangers Gallery being on fire since day one.
Oh, don't even mention.
So, speaking of Lucas Stewart and his initiatives, the election happened. And
Yeah,
the
that was
Stag
a
Party
big.
was soundly rejected, Lucas Stewart being blocked from both 10 Downing and Westminster, losing 60-40 to Aaron, the current Prime Minister, and I believe, what was he, in eighth place? Ninth place in the MP debate, in the MP
He
elections.
just missed out from Parliament by one vote, I think.
There will be, I hope, a graphic up on screen for those for YouTube land. But I have to wonder if maybe the RSA Act repeal, maybe contributed to his downfall.
Well, there were a couple of things contributing to this. There were very a very big chunk of reforms in the works, and a lot of them were in that area which were very controversial. So a lot of people came out against it, and the interesting thing was that Lucas's narrative or his stance on the whole opposition was that it's a very small group of very vocal people, and the fact that the election turned out the way it did, I think it surprised everybody, even Aaron at the time. I think.
Yeah, I can't imagine being on the fly on the wall of the Stag Party headquarters, but I imagine he was not happy. um,
Yeah, but
but
especially how they might have thought of the whole situation after the debates or the interviews on the Discord server.
I
So
think he performed well in general.
yeah, yeah,
He does know how to
and
defend his own positions, even if you don't agree with him.
yeah, and in the end, this was a bit of a surprise. But hey, that's how the region thinks. So
So the new balance is what one, two, three, four members from Sinn Féin, with creating a majority in a seven-person parliament. Two from a resurgent Labour and Cooperative Party, which has been rebranded,
yep,
and then one from the newest new count from the newest wow from the newest political party, UNC, led
United
by Killian
National
Talleyrand,
Party.
who has been quite active in Parliament, which I believe we all expected from him. He does. He's a good MP. I mean, there's no questions about it. When everybody saw him sign up, him and Klaus, they're like, "Yep, those guys are winning."
He really came back strong into elective politics. So
And he hit the
I'm
ground
really
running
excited.
from day one.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really excited to see. One moment taking back to Lucas, that might have been another slight blunder, not a very big problem, that he just uh, posted his registration at the very last moment. I think it was a couple hours before registration closed, so his campaign had less time to resonate with the people, to have some debate or questions from the public. So
Right.
yeah, that might have been another contributing factor to that.
Yeah. Aaron's platform, he was definitely policy light, I think, more so than Lucas was. But he had a lot more time to get what message he had out there, for sure.
And and
Which,
and and the overall feel of his campaign and his future premiership was very different. It seemed like we would have a much quote unquote calmer period.
a more stable, less change-driven premiership.
Yeah, and that will be a thing to consider for future PM candidates
Well, the region
on
seems to
how
run
they will.
cycles on that. Like, at a certain point, we'll become discontent with how things are right now, and so we'll elect somebody to change. But eventually, Lucas very strongly brought it into, as Constance St. James said, the imperialist premiership. And he
Yeah,
overplayed that hand, as all prime ministers elected to do that eventually do, and we eventually get back to a prime minister like Aaron, who we basically elected to keep the trains running on time, more or less.
this will be very interesting to see in the future for in the next general election or in the long term as well on how that dynamic might change or might not change at all.
Right. So Aaron's initial government appointments were Elisha Menzies for deputy prime minister. Elisha is also serving as Speaker of the House again, which I believe he's done a good job with so far, and I look forward to seeing how he does as DPM. Home Secretary was a newcomer named Doyle. Foreign Secretary Bjorn Mickelson, who I'm a little surprised to see came as Foreign Secretary, but who am I? Chancellor is our own Christoph Sebastian here. And then the Department of Culture, Media, and Sport is being led by Richard Stewart, the Culture Department being reestablished. with the air
Yeah,
premiership, which I think many in the region are happy with, and Richard is a long-time leader of that department in a past NS life.
yeah, I'm interested to see how he works. I mean, I didn't have much time to connect with him, but now he's a member of the Labour and Cooperative Party, so I meet with him a lot more frequently. And I think he's a good lad. So I'm
Yeah,
interested to see what he can bring out of this renewed culture office, the majority's favorite.
yeah. Labour and Cooperative Party certainly resurgent with two members in government and what, two MPs, right? You and Mayo.
Yep,
And
yep.
so, and I'm sure Killian's party will do well. So that electoral politics over the next couple of election cycles should be interesting.
It's gonna be really fun.
Then, about a week into the premiership, so about yesterday, the original Home Secretary,
Yeah,
uh,
Doyle Lonergan resigned.
and what was his name again? Lonigan, right? Donnie
Yep.
Lonigan. What did I say Doyle for? I don't know. I'm sorry, Mr. Lonigan. Anyways, he resigned. That is a big office for somebody's very first. The only bigger office than that, I think, would be the Chancellor's office, truly, for your first government appointment.
Yeah,
So,
running all those different aspects of forum and on-site affairs in one, it truly is a big take for big fish for someone who just starts out.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, he listed personal reasons and inexperience, quote unquote, as his reasons to resign. I really hope he is all right, and I hope to see him back again to have a second try in government
I
because
I
I
hope
hope.
to see him in as somebody's deputy minister personally.
Yeah, yeah, you can learn a lot in those
Not
deputy
yours.
offices. It might seem. Are you afraid, Mac?
Maybe.
Well, so you can learn a lot in these deputy offices, and as dull as it may seem at first, it can really help someone to understand the main mechanics of how you work in government. So that might be a better route for those who really want to put their hand in government affairs.
Yeah, and even work in Windsor. And
Yeah, the other route could be the
yeah,
local authority.
yeah. So springboarding off of that, the Treasury Reform Act has been on the forefront of parliamentary activity since pretty much day one. Really, once we
Yeah,
got a speaker.
that was a point that really had both houses going because I think an amendment was put before the Lords and the Commons as well. So this was really something that both houses wanted to resolve or amend in a way that would be a bit more beneficial to Parliament and to the Treasury as well, which I'm really thankful for.
Yeah, and I like that we're looking at maybe not beholding a new prime minister to a prime minister who may have just not known what he was doing or it just wasn't working, right? It gives us more flexibility and takes out the words emergency budget out of our legalese, which is great because there's
Yeah,
all sorts of bad connotations that I don't think were even intended when it was written.
yeah, all these emergency budget, emergency reserve fund, these were all elements which were made all of us a bit hesitant about ever putting one before the house. Uh,
It would have
but
felt like
now,
a failure.
yeah, it would have the message of we couldn't keep the economy on the right track set out by the previous budget. So, and that would certainly not be the case most of the time. So now that we would actually have the chance to put a new budget before the House in every single term, could really make our economy a bit more adapt to the new conditions or any sort of unexpected events.
Right.
And I'm really welcoming this motion.
I personally think you were looking forward to chilling all term, only having to do taxes twice. But hey.
Oh god.
Then again, that
So
has been lighting up Parliament, which terrified me when I read the name of it, the citizenship. There's a Citizenship Act amendment, which immediately made me think, oh, somebody else needs a popularity boost by coming after me. But no, it I think it's fairly common sense. It's fairly
yeah, that was really sensible proposal put forward by the Duchess of Bedford and York,
mhm.
which is really only laying out that we should have the right to put someone for trial and eventually banning someone if they do join a prescribed region after they obtain citizenship, which
Or if
it
they
seems
lied to
like
us to get
the
in,
legal framework didn't have at the time. So yeah,
or if they lied to us to get in.
yeah. I mean that they had that I think at the beginning, or no, it did not. Yeah, sorry. So yeah,
I
it's
think
a
that was added
very
though, was it not?
straightforward thing.
Yeah, made
Yeah,
a misrepresentation or omission on the application for citizenship. Really, if you have to lie to get in, I don't know what you're doing wrong because I told the complete truth when I applied and I got in. So, maybe get it together out there, people.
I don't. I cannot comment much on that because I haven't joined many regions in my NS life. So yeah, but really, it's not as scary as it first sounds, and that I think passed the House very swiftly. Now it's up to the Lords.
Yeah. And then another act that died, it might have set a new parliamentary record for how fast that act died. Usually it at least gets more than it got just because people don't notice it. But the Military Alignment Act put forward by Speaker Elisha Menzies died in roughly an hour.
And I didn't even know it was before the House until a
Exactly.
couple hours later when it was already withdrawn.
Yeah.
So yeah. First off, it the main problem would have been that it should have been an amendment to the Security and Defense Act. It couldn't stand as a standalone act. So that would have been one of the first points that one of us would have raised. But the other one that we single-handedly decide as Parliament to switch our military stance to defender from independent was really a long shot. Not really trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but yeah, that should have been a more open conversation, at least towards the Chief of General Staff.
And probably the Prime Minister, too. Because
Yeah,
that's really going to have a large effect on foreign affairs in terms of who we deal with. Because suddenly that
yeah,
knocks out probably 40% of the R&D spectrum in terms of regions.
yeah. I would have if this bill would have lived longer. I would have expected the Prime Minister to raise a word or two about this being a bit problematic. But yeah,
Yeah,
he withdrew the bill very swiftly.
well, the Chief of General Staff, John Spencer Talleyrand, JST, he made a lot of quite good points on it.
Yeah, the Strangers Gallery was very unanimous in their judgment that it should have been a deeper conversation first before putting the bill to Parliament.
Yeah, I mean, it got me and Constance St. James to agree on something. So,
Win-win situation for everybody that way.
yeah, yeah. Because, like, last time when we did this, we went from Defender to Independent almost 10 years ago. and there was a referendum, which is how I think this should happen. Not only was there just a simple referendum, but there was a period of time prior to the referendum where proponents of each side campaigned for their side. And eventually, independent came out on top. There was like a week between announcement of referendum and the vote.
Yeah, and that's not the problem that was a referendum long ago, unlike the UKF referendum, which was only a year ago, and we already wanted to abolish it. I mean, the previous government. But
Well, he
as
wanted to do
we,
that in pursuit of his private military corporation ideas that he pursued way, back in January, February, March, I think.
oh yeah, I remember. But shortly, my thought when I first saw the bill after it was withdrawn was that now, as we talked about it before, the UKF is just returning from its hiatus. I mean, at least it seems to return,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope it continues to return. And
Right.
at this time, uh, really restricting our ability to practice all kinds of military activity. So leaving out raiding or liberate. I think liberating is not in
Tagging.
there, but occupation is in there.
Right.
So limiting our ability to perform such exercises would be a bit detrimental
Yeah.
in terms of training our new officers. But yeah,
Right. Then springboarding onto that, the PFLG Act amendment, um, potential for local governance act. Am I getting that right?
yep,
An amendment to that was put forth by the freshman member of the House of Commons, the member for Wantage, which I hope I said that right, William Cavendish Beauclerk, as an
yep.
MP. I mean, I don't I don't have an opinion one way on local governments. I mean, I can see their value, but I just don't care. That's getting involved in that on that level for me right now. It's just not where I'm at. So, what do you think about it?
Oh, in general, I love the principal acts. I mean, I had the chance to lead the newly reformed Northern Ireland for a while. Unfortunately, in its last days, as it slowly died out. But the fact that Windsor is doing so well is really a joy to observe from the outside. As for the amendment, it proposes that a person could be part of two combined authorities at one time, not allowed to have a business in both of them, and not allowed to hold an office in both of them. It's an interesting concept, and I mean, it's really sad that we couldn't have William here to defend it. I am not really sold on the idea. I mean, I think the main part to have two or three or even more combined authorities is to accelerate competition and different cultures. And I think if we allow people to have parts of two different combined authorities, it might fuse or they might lose interest in one of them and leave it behind to for in favor of the other one. I don't know how that would work out in the long run, but if the majority of the house believes it could live long term, I could only welcome it. But personally, I don't really believe in this idea.
Personally, I think it's addressing a problem we don't even have. I don't think the region has the capacity for another local authority. Windsor, I think,
Yeah,
has only just in the last month or 2 to 3 months has only really gotten its feet under it and really taken off. I think, huh?
yeah, I like the progress that Windsor has made, and I would like to see. more before we even consider something like a second combined authority. And if that has built up, that second combined authority has built up a good infrastructure and a good system, then would this question be raised ideally? But until then, I don't really
We could just irritate a lot of people and bring back the constituent nations.
know.
I'm gonna need a restraining
Some have
order
really
against.
good nostalgia at those times. So
I'm gonna need a
those,
restraining order against Silver Steps after saying that, but you know. All
we'll
right,
see.
and moving along, we got the repeat just today, July 23rd, 2023, when this is being recorded, a reveal of the PPRA, the Political Party Regulation Act, proposed by Killian Talleyrand, the member for Edinburgh East.
That was a real shocker to see at first.
Yeah, I don't know that I agree with it. This is going to be a fight.
I already see some of the members speaking
Rumbling.
out, and yeah, it's going to be a heck of a debate because I mean I understand the main motion to streamline our legal framework to not have standalone acts that are regulating some aspect of another bill or another act, but I think just repealing this act first entirely, then bringing back some of the elements that are, I think, really important in terms of having active political parties. I think these two should be debated at the same time, or at least someone should bring up another bill before the House that puts these elements into the Election Regulation Act as Killian proposes it.
But
But
what I think we need a bill like that with this provision in it that repeals the PPRA if that's what you want to do, rather than doing it two separate bills.
yeah, because that would, I
So what
think
happens
the
if the
PPRA has,
PPRA? What happens if the PPRA gets killed, and then we don't get a replacement in time before the next election? What are we going to do?
that's not the main problem is that there are some elements in the PPRA which I think are really worth to keep in our law system, especially the ones that regulate upkeep of the political party, to have the documents, party documents, updated every time there is a general election. So voters and party members are updated on what's happening inside the party and what are the main documents. And I think if we just cut that out now without a substitute or an alternative, or bringing those back into the ERA, then I think it would be very detrimental by the time the next general election comes around.
I think that act
And
has an important role in just keeping, the lazily run one or two person micro party stamped out that just waste
and
up our foreign space.
that was a concern that I had recently. Is we have a good chunk of political parties who have done nothing in between election seasons, and then just suddenly pop up, try to run one or two candidates, and then fail to comply with the PPRA and then get rejected.
Look
And
what
then
happened
those
to
are
Pine.
allowed us to call out against the government and against the whole institution. So I think we could probably take a look at how to make a bit more stringent regulations towards an upkeep of the party.
Why what happened to Pine this last election?
Yeah, he applied for member of parliament and prime minister, I think,
And I
and
believe
then
he
he
was
got rejected
disqualified.
because the party couldn't comply with the PPRA.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then he was a bit upset.
a bit.
I really want to put it lightly. We are really walking on tight ropes here.
He was pretty. He was extremely angry. Regional politics was on fire for like 2 days straight.
I just didn't want to read the Discord server
Yeah,
at that
that's
time.
hilarious though. So you know. But moving along, repeal of Questions to Government Act. As a prime minister whose part of your downfall was related to the Questions to Government Act, what are your thoughts on this?
Uh, you have a very good memory. Well, I think uh, salvaging the contents of the act into the standing orders is an interesting concept because, as Killian has pointed out, we already have a responsibility to answer to Parliament if asked, and the rest of that could be put into the standing orders. Some have raised concerns within the House about how that would be apprehensible in a court aspect, but I think most of us were concerned that it's pretty certain that this would also protect us from PMs or cabinet officers not answering questions.
All right. Okay. I mean, if there's a suitable replacement that still, has a mechanism for Parliament to check a prime minister, or check a cabinet, a cabinet secretary. I mean, as long as we don't lose that mechanism, how we do it is, I guess it doesn't matter as much as the fact that it's done.
Yeah, and I loved how this sparked a conversation in Strangers Gallery and in the regional politics channel of the Discord server about the balance between Parliament and government, Parliament, how much how much Parliament should overlook the government, how much power Parliament should have over the government, and that will be a more long-term conversation, and I think that will continue in the Strangers Gallery very long into the future.
Yeah, this should be a great Parliament term if the first week has anything to say about it.
Yeah, this week has brought a lot of action, and I'm eager to see what's next.
Okay, so the last bit of business we have is an announcement from the BBC and the Culture Office. There's a partnership rekindling our long history together. Some of you might remember at one point in time, the BBC was actually a subsect of the Culture Office, and the Director General was actually appointed by the Culture Secretary at one point in time. And yeah, it changed like every term. It was, we didn't have. I think it was Klaus a lot back then too, if memory serves. But yeah. So right now there is a brainstorm thread in the Culture Office where we are working out a system where we start up a game of maybe a longer term strategy game such as Minecraft, Total War series, Crusader Kings, whatever else you want to think about.
I really miss Monopoly from that list, if you ask me.
I could go for hey, there's a thread. Go post. I could go for a game. However, it doesn't really fit the other part of that partnership, which is where the BBC provides weekly updates, probably in this format on this show, to the goings on of the internal workings of the game. Um, as far as cash prizes or anything, that hasn't come about yet, but it's an interesting concept. Klaus has raised a good point already. But yeah, chime in. Help us bring the Culture Office back with a bang.
this will be this will be a very interesting initiative, and I really want to see it thrive.
Yes, so do I. Mostly because it was my suggestion. Anyways,
Aww,
yeah,
your little baby.
a little bit, a little bit. So again,
Okay.
to Mr. William, I am sorry we couldn't have you on. I am sorry I am so crap and a complete failure. And
It's alright.
like,
At least we get a lot of fun.
yeah, I'm sure I'll be made fun of for this at some point. From BBC News on BBC Radio. So long, and have a good night or day whenever you're watching this. Goodbye.
Thank you for your attention. Good night.